All right, everyone. It's kind of November, so there's not usually too much exciting going on for severe weather, but I did notice a little bit of a tornado risk today in the Ohio area, maybe a little bit into uh, western Pennsylvania. The SPC does not have a 2% risk out, but I did notice on models there's a little bit of a tornado risk. The 5% risk is there for wind, and that's what gives it the marginal risk. But I mean, overall, it's not obviously not a crazy risk. Otherwise, the uh, Storm Prediction Center would have a high risk out. But I think it's something good to go over. I haven't looked too much at it at the moment. But here is going straight to the models. 500 millibar winds. So we can see kind of a big trough kind of working its way through the upper part of the Midwest. And you can already tell that there's not going to be super strong. Uh, it's not your like classic big deep amplitude trough. It's kind of coming in from the northwest. But sometimes that can work, and you can see if you're wanting deep layer shear, we do get it, especially later in the day by 6 o'clock. We see over 70 knot jet stream, which is pretty favorable for tornadoes. So 700 millibar winds are also going to be pretty strong. 45 knots or so. And then 850 millibar winds are low level jet. And once this loads, we'll get to it. So you can see 500 mil or 850 millibar low, kind of up here in northern Canada. But either way, we do see a pretty strong increase in the low level jet. It is quite veered for a low level jet, so it's not going to be the most favorable you could get. However, with the 500 millibar winds coming in from essentially the northwest, you're still going to get a bit of a tornado risk. I think so. So definitely, in terms of strength of the low-level jet, I mean, almost 50 knots. So that's very much favorable. So let's get a closer look with the HRRR higher resolution model. And really the big thing with this setup is, are we going to get enough instability? So we can look at, we'll just go to Surface Space Cape here. See small amounts already. You can see peaks at 500 joules per kilogram of mixed layer or surface base cape, which is far from the best, but if you have strong enough shear, it can compensate that. And we'll take a look at what the storms might look like. So at the moment at noon, nothing really. Some rain up there. And you can see some storms kind of develop. Nothing too robust here. Might look at the RFS too. RFS usually shows a little bit more intense storms on average. Even here, it doesn't show much. Nothing too strong in updraft felicities. Are there any updraft felicities? Let's check. So that's interesting, as it a little bit further out here in western New York and Pennsylvania. Going back to the HRRR, and which we can do a later run for, which more up-to-date information. Yeah, weak updraft tracks, kind of in western Pennsylvania the most. So let's just take a quick look at the soundings here. It's a bit weird to get a good one. We'll just take one here. This will give us an idea of what we could be looking at. It's a little contaminated. Let's go to dew point. And once this level, you see 50s dew points at the moment, so nothing too crazy. Maybe we'll see them, these dew points out here work their way up here with that strong low-level jet and decent surface winds. So see a little bit of an increase to the upper 50s, particularly in Ohio. So sounding right here, that's contaminated. Yeah, I guess this is what we kind of got going on. Very weak instability. Let's see if we can pinpoint the area of highest instability, so we can get what might be the most CAPE we'd see. Yeah, here we go. This is kind of just a low-end tornado risk. Let's just talk a little bit about why. So we got our instability only 171 surface base CAPE, which is on the low side. Elevated mix layer is kind in there, maybe a pocket here, which is a little lower than you'd like, maybe. A little up here. But yeah, overall, weak instability, which will probably mean fairly weak storms. Maybe some with stronger wind gusts, though. Hodograph, pretty decent. You got a almost 50 knot low level jet, so I mean that's definitely good. Critical angle 44, so that's not that can probably work in this instance. Maybe being a little higher would help. 55 knots, 0 to 6 kilometer shear. Yeah, this is just a low end tornado risk. Nothing too crazy. Could be a 2% risk issued, but I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't the case. Down here, just for fun, let's check that. Almost the same kind of deal. Weak lapse rates aloft, though, and weaker shear. So, yeah, highest tornado risk would be up here. There's a chance of maybe a tornado, but overall, this is just a low-end tornado risk. Nothing to worry about, just something to note. And this will be happening at late afternoon, early evening. So there's that. This is probably the best environment we've seen yet. 70 knots of 0 to 6 kilometer shear. So that's definitely favorable for deep layer shear wise. Little bit more curvature in the hodograph, still just a veered low level winds. And kind of an elevated mix layer, so you know, if I was forecasting, I'd consider a 2% risk, but it's possible the SBC is right, obviously. And you see the risk essentially ends by midnight. So that was just a quick look at a tornado risk, not a high one, but good thing to get some practice in for forecasting. So yeah, thank you for watching.